Okay, my friends, so IQ, intelligence quotient, that's what it stands for, intelligence quotient. What they do, I'm not exactly sure how some of these numbers are collected, but I can tell you how they get an IQ score. What they do is they start by figuring what is known as your mental age. And this is usually done via a test. I've taken a couple of them. They're kind of fun. There's a lot of math on them. So they give you a test, some kind of assessment, and from that assessment, they get what's known as your mental age. Okay. Then they take your actual chronological age, and since it's intelligence quotient, they divide those two things. Okay, so I'm 52 years old this year. So let's suppose I take an IQ test and I have a mental age. Let's just do a couple little math problems here. I have a mental age of 52 and my actual age is also 52. They divide those two numbers, which gives you a decimal of 1, and they change that to a percent. So I'd have an IQ of 100. The understanding is that the IQ is out of a percentage. And again, I'm not entirely sure where that number comes from, but they compare it to your actual age. So your average IQ is 100. So that's the number we're going to be using in these problems. It's interesting, IQ. Actually, intelligence itself is interesting because there's bazillion kinds of intelligence, but also IQ for very young people can be very, very, very high. For example, imagine a very young child. So imagine you've got a kid who's 3 years old. And they take an IQ test, and they're precocious, and they might test at a 4-year-old level. Well, 4 divided by 3 is 1.33. That means they have an IQ of 130. As you're about to see, that's a very high IQ. Now, you don't know that right now with just the average of 100. And that's why we have to talk about also not just the average of 100, but also the standard deviation of IQ. So now that you know how it's calculated, and you don't have to actually calculate IQs in this homework, I'm going to give you IQ scores and ask you to analyze, how likely they are. The standard deviation of IQ is 15 percentage points. I don't know why. I can't find it anywhere online. It's just reported that the average is 100, the standard deviation is 15, and IQ scores are bell-shaped. They are normally distributed, which means if you plot IQ scores on a curve, a bell curve like we did with newborn birth weights in class, the highest likelihood for IQ is the average of 100. A standard deviation of 15 means if you go out 15 points from 100, right and left, so that would be 100 plus 15, 115, 100 minus 15, 85. That means you've got about 2/3 of all people have IQs between 85 and 115. That's the number we got in class. I think it's closer to 68%. We'll get the exact percentages the next day we do bell curve stuff in class, day 2. So that's one standard deviation. 2 standard deviations will go out further. And I'm not even going to bother going out to 3 standard deviations on this homework. We'll get into lots of numbers of standard deviations, not just whole numbers. We can also get into fractional standards. We'll do all that on the next day we do bell curve stuff. These numbers applied to that curve are all you're going to need to do these next 4 questions because they're going to be very similar to what we did in class. So give those a shot right now.